Okay, we've got 6 o'clock. I'd like to call the meeting in order. Would please stand for our invocation pledge. Connie, your lead us on.
Let's bow our heads. Our most kind and gracious Heavenly Father, Lord, it's again at the end of another day, Lord. We thank you for letting us see the light of this day. Our Father, we ask that you forgive us of all our sins and shortcomings. Dear God, be with us in this meeting, and everything that's done, let it be done to thy will. We only pray in thy name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The second item is reading and approval of last month's meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion they be approved as written.
Second. We have a move and second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. Motion carried. Item 3, from last month, we have some old business regarding utilities, revisions, and modifications. I'd like to ask Richard to address that, please.
Thank you, Mr. Cagle. Had a meeting with Mr. Landrum and our water department head, Larry Coleman, who's now recently retired, but we're very glad to say is still doing some work for us. So Philip is the name of the current director, but I've been working previously with Mr. Coleman on a proposal to revise Chapter 74, the utilities section of the Code of Ordinances, for minor changes so that this part of the code would come under compliance with the policies and procedures that the water department is using. And at the same time, based on a meeting just recently with Mr. Landrum, we looked over that chapter and made sure that we were in legal compliance too with just a couple of things that he saw that needed to be taken out. So really what we're proposing at this time is not just to take a couple of things out and add a couple of things in, but basically just to have a few changes that would, maybe be 5 or 6 in total, resulting in not having to pick and choose, but just readopt the entire chapter. So what you've got in front of you is a memo, and then you got the information resolution format that basically just says take out the existing Chapter 74 utilities section of the Code of Ordinances and readopt it with what's proposed. So again, no significant changes in substance.
Any questions?
The management, what was that, the water and sewer authority, that board was setting the rates and fees. A lot of it's described in the loan documents, depending on the water system. Where we saw things in the ordinance where the fees were actually specified in there, or when it said the county would establish those fees, we basically deleted all that. It gives the water and sewer authority a little more autonomy, but it also is more reflective as what was actually happening there. They were the ones setting the rates and fees, and so it just kind of matches up similar to what we did with the beer and wine board. About instead of having those fees in the actual ordinance, every time you change the fees, you got to change the ordinance. We defer to their policy making abilities.
Are the rates that they will set, are they supposed to be generally revenue neutral?
They're in the GFA loan documents that we have on those on the system. They have certain requirements. I mean, you have to be over this threshold to service of that and that sort of thing. And then I think there's a ceiling in there. I can't remember.
There's a certain cost structure.
Yes.
And the rates must reflect that cost structure within some.
We've got to show that they're basically. I don't want to say revenue neutral because I'm not sure about that, but that is generally what's required
Yes,
for
sir.
service of dead and London Department.
Some of the prescription. So the county's not, the board, the water board will have the authority to set those rates now in the future as a result of this.
Yeah, but, and I say autonomous, but they're still, they're still governed by those land documents. Absolutely.
And just, Mr. Cagle, a point of clarification that Mr. Landry can legally correct me if I'm speak incorrectly, but because it's old business, as far as I know, it would be 2 votes that y'all would make. Y'all would make a first vote to take it off the table if you want to, and then a second vote to take action one way or the other to recommend this.
Why do we take it off the table?
Last month, Planning Commission voted to table it because
So
Mr. Coleman and I had not spoken with the
Right.
county attorney to make sure that we had gone over everything, not just policy-wise, but legally-wise, for lack of a better word.
Any further questions?
So what are you looking for, Phil, to approve this?
Well, you've approved, y'all approved your agenda to show that as old business.
Okay.
So, however y'all wanted to handle it, you can,
So we don't,
do a motion.
do you just have need a motion then to approve this as presented?
Yeah, I think that would work.
I'll make that motion to approve the text amendment for water service rules as provided today.
I'll second.
Have a move and second, any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. No opposition. Item 4,
He said it was 2 votes,
Oh,
one to
that's
take
right.
it off the
That's right.
table and then one to,
You can do it either way.
okay, so we're okay with
So
the
I
motion,
think
okay.
either way, since the agenda was approved with that.
Okay, so we'll just approve the agenda then, okay.
next item 4 is new business. I want to announce we're going to have an open hearing for this rezone request. I'd like to ask Richard what the county's recommendation is.
Thank you, Mr. Cagle. This property is on 515, on the same side of the road as Rocco's, immediately south and adjacent to the property that's in the city limits of Jasper that includes Rocco's and that business center. And so this property is 5.17 acres. It's been residential use for many years. And so this rezoning proposal would rezone the property from commercial to residential and bring it into legal conformance. Right now, it is continuation of a legal non-conforming use because it's residential use on property zoned commercial. And so really having it zoned residential would, just be allowed legal by right, nothing non-conforming. And the current property owners, the Simmons family, could use this now residential zone property for future construction of additional residences on the property. So staff looked at the different criteria for a map amendment, and based on, really no objections that stood out, staff recommends approval.
Is there, Mr. Simmons here?
Right here.
Is there anything that you would like to comment on?
Can't think of anything.
Is there any questions for Mr. Simmons? by the board? We have one person that would like to speak, Mr. Tim Praker. Yes.
Stand?
Yeah, you can stand, please.
I was kind of mixed about coming here tonight. But first, thank you for allowing me to come. Trying to make some notes. I just had a little time today to address this. Little mixed. My family sold this property And I'm all about person's property rights. And I don't know these folks here, never met them, so I'm sure they're nice folks and all, but, you know, I'm here to speak in opposition of it. You know, I come in today and looked at the zoning. If you look at Highway 515, it kind of speaks for itself. To address that is being used for residential, it was zoned commercial back by my uncle years ago when it was grandfathered in. I'm surprised to learn today they used to have a shop there, a cabinet shop. And I understand now it's been converted to a house. I wasn't aware of that, but what his thinking was back in them days, probably like mine, I was living on mine, but we all was only commercial, figured it was going to be commercial one day. But if you look at what's going on in 515, I mean, it speaks for itself. You know, if you go down there, you know, it's kind of in a hole. I drove down to my cousin's property last weekend to talk with him about what his thoughts were. And he wasn't there, but he lives immediately south of them. And I don't understand the noise and the holler is just unbelievable. But if you just look at it, look at your zoning now, it speaks for itself. You know, there's a stream that runs the property line there that's part of a floodplain. There's no utilities in there. I haven't come across my dad's property now with water and telephone that I know of. I don't know where the power comes from. It may be also the, you know, my mom and dad don't have much longer to live, and we're eventually going to sell their property. We haven't determined yet if there's an easement even for that to get down there, but we wouldn't grant an easement when it comes time for it. We would want to sell that property. Mine's zone commercial. The flea market is a commercial. What is it? Highway business. Everything around it except my dad's property is highway business or some type of commercial. But there's no utilities down there now that come across my dad's property. The phone and the water, at least that I know of. I don't know about the power. You know, the property development area is highway business. If you develop a highway business, they would bring that down the side of 515 like it ought to be brought. But you know, you got the flea market, my property. My dad is rural residential right now. But, you know, really, I was born and raised here. I understand the noise is terrible there. I bought my property to want to build me a house there. But the noise is terrible over there. You know, talk about the utilities. Right now, you got Rocco's. You know, they have problems over there all the time with people complaining about the noise just coming from Rocco's. You know, I like Rocco's. You know, a good place to eat and go enjoy yourself. There's still people complaining about that. You know, what does it do for our property on down the road? You know, you build 2 more houses in there in addition to what they have now. You know, they may one day say we're through with this, we're out of here, and then when somebody else moves in there, you're going to have people complain about it. You know, 515, that area is business. That's how it's progressing. Just nothing seems to fit this property to add more additional homes in there. Yeah, the home was there my uncle built. Like I say, when we started zoning, his grandfather did the commercial zoning or the highway business in there. That's what we were all told to choose something. And we chose that. Yes, the house was there and he lived in it. That's the way a lot of the properties are. It's just grandfathered in. That's what zoning's for. It's to prevent this. That's what it's for. You know, he had his own commercial. Thinking it was going to be commercial. Like I say, he had a cabinet shop there. That was a business. But just nothing seems to fit. You know, and I battled this for a week trying to decide whether to speak or not, you know, but I know I'm going to have the issue of selling my dad's property at some point. Again, I don't know if there's an easement there, but they don't have phone and water there now. Phone company said we can't get phone in there. And the little water line that's coming down my dad's driveway that's feeding that property. You know, if we sell it, we want to be able to let them bring in tractors or whatever and grade that property, do what they want to do with it. But, you know, that's the problem. They don't have that there now. Again, I don't know these folks. I know they got to be nice folks. But I have to speak. You know, I was born and raised here. The whole property was my grandpa's at one point. You know, and parts of the family bought the property up as they passed away. And I'm facing my dad passing away. He's in bad shape, and my mom, you know, she's getting old. But we'll eventually want to sell that property. And I don't know what their thoughts are eventually when, how they going to get their phone and water. You know, if it was developed properly, they're going to bring it down 515. But the property immediately to the south is highway business. The flea market is highway business. I've got my own neighborhood business. And we would look to rezone my dad's. maybe set it all at one time at some point. And I know that's on down the road, but, you know, I don't know what building 2 more houses in there is gonna do to Rocco's. They're in the city tonight dealing with another complaint with Rocco's tonight. I called the mayor, and it just don't fit the area. You know, I have no problem with what's there. They live there till they're done living there, but it just don't make sense to put some more new houses right there, right next to 515. That's basically what it's gonna be. And the leaves are off the trees, you're gonna see rooftops right there. I mean, right next to 515. It just don't make sense. I feel I had to come and at least speak up. As a county, I've lived here all my life, that just don't fit that area. I know they're there now, and I hope they don't hate when I leave tonight, but I just gotta speak up. It just don't fit the area, and I understand it. It's pretty down in there, I can say that, it's a pretty area. But the noise is just off. And right now, we're dealing with the issues of Rocco's, and Rocco couldn't be here tonight. I went and talked to him, and he's out of town, but he said he's talking to these folks, but he didn't realize what they were wanting to do. But,
Time's up.
yes, sir.
I would like to speak now.
Please stand.
We do have water and utilities.
Stand, please.
We do have water and utilities. The problem came in when we switched from EMC providing our telephone to Windstream. Once Windstream came,
Where's the power come in? I don't know where the power comes in at.
it's right there on our property.
Is it coming off us or is it coming?
When you say us, where are you?
We're the ones trying to get a phone line run off of right now. My dad's property, immediately behind you. It's his property you're having to
The
come
one that
across.
keeps cutting the temporary cable.
They didn't know what it was for. Somebody just showed up to run that cable. That's what I'm saying. They come on to the property, didn't know what they were doing, and they cut it.
And I think that, I guess Gary,
He's
your
my
uncle?
cousin. He's a cousin. His daddy was mom.
He's the one that's providing that service, and I thought he should have talked to TJ before he ran that wire up there.
They taught my dad is 82 years old. He's not, well, but back in the day, I'm sorry. Back in the day, my uncles, and him, I think it's a gentleman's agreement. He just let him run water. Water comes in there too, right?
No.
It don't come off our hill? They told me it did. The phone, I think it was just, you sure water don't?
I see a water meter right down there at the base of my driveway. I'm not exactly where it goes underground.
Again, my dad, mine is kind of going, and said the water comes from there too. I don't know for certain. I know the phone, because they send that phone on it, but it's coming.
If
across
I
the
had
property.
stayed with EMC, it wouldn't have been a problem.
But you understand where we're gonna be at some point.
Sure.
If we sell that and they,
However, we're not the people making the noise. Rocco asked me if I was going to complain about his music. I explained to him I'm a disabled veteran. All I got to do is pull these hearing aids out, and I don't hear that music. Or that
I appreciate that, too. I was a Marine too, I heard you say that.
Oh. So I'm not actually looking to build more houses so much as I'm wanting to get my mom out of my house.
She's filming this, you know.
My mom is not going to see this. She's 92 years
But you are
old.
looking to build two houses according to what?
Well, I want the ability to build houses there. I'm not sure I will, but my sister lives with me, my mom lives with me, and my other sister wants to move in with me. So we kind of need to have separate spaces there, and we intend to live there forever.
A lot more beautiful property in this county.
We-
Right next to 515.
Well, you know, for us, doesn't make that much difference. And we are looking at Ryan's property as well, that 5 acres right across the creek from us, and we'd be happy to talk to you folks when you get ready to sell your property. We'd like to have a little more. But we don't intend to be making any noise.
I didn't say you would, I said there's a racket down there now. But,
Well, it's not from us, it's
But
from
it's
the
like-
highway or from
Well,
Rocco's.
okay, but
So, when I bought the property, I put an awful lot of money into it, hoping to get a VA loan. But at the end, the VA wouldn't give me the loan because it's zoned commercial, and they don't do any commercial loans. So part of this appeal here is to get it zoned back into residential. And there's been 2 residences there since 1987. The small house was 87, the large house was 89. We can't get a permit to rebuild the small house because of our zoning, and I can't get a VA loan due to my zoning. So we're just trying to get back into conformance here.
It has been and always will be residential property. Zone commercial.
How we did it.
Any questions?
Is there a right of way? You got a right of way?
We do.
Mine right of way.
From, right away.
Across your land, across your dad's land in here.
I wasn't aware that we needed a right of way. This is our property. We have a driveway right off of 515. We have a nice looping driveway here. We're looking to expand this road around here. And Richard says that we needed to have 1 acre per residence. So we're proposing residences there. But you know, if we can get all of our family into the existing residences zoned properly, we'd be happy.
And where's the existing argument?
Right here.
And there's utilities on there?
Yes, the utilities are right here.
This is their property, right?
That's all of our property. It goes from here, all the way around there. It's really about 1,200 feet right along Highway 515. And there is a lot of noise there, but we're not making it.
It's a little over 5 acres. right?
5.17.
Well, sir, help me with understanding how your value of your property will be degraded if this property is zoned as requested.
I don't know, Will, there's a little piece of property between his and mine. There's a high tension power line that goes through there. I've got 16 acres. That borders the flea market. So if the flea market and all that ever went big business or something, it would die in. I don't know, if these folks still be there, we got new people move in and if they start complaining about what's in there, it's just mixing business and residential. I mean, if it all was to,
Well, now,
I don't know how it would affect.
is Rocco's not in the city limits of Jasper?
It is.
It is.
What's that would help do with the county?
It doesn't.
I'm talking about.
That was just an example about
He'd have to complain.
the neighbors now
He'd
complaining.
have to complain to.
Right.
But how did the city get the property down on 515 for all these businesses?
Well,
Annexation.
and then they had this one, they skipped over, and then they got like racetrack and all that is,
That's the city limits.
No, I'm not in the city limits.
right, right.
Yeah, you'd be down there with Rocco at the Jasper City
Yeah.
Council.
Rocco said if I didn't complain about his noise, he wouldn't complain about me.
Sounds like me.
That sounds like Rocco.
Well, it is gonna be noisy, 'cause I live about a mile off of it, and it's loud at my house, the traffic and stuff.
Well, it looks like it would be bad for us with the noise, because we're not making it, but we don't mind noise.
We've been there since March, living there since March. Not a problem.
And we're not gonna make any noise.
Now, your mother's 92, she won't make any noise? if
She
gets-
can't hear me talking to her.
So she won't know what you said when she sees
Well, she
you.
didn't know in her heart what I said.
And you're not concerned about the loss of future financial opportunity by,
I've spent a good amount of time talking to Richard about this, and everything about the commercial zoning was bad for me. You know, I couldn't expand it if I wanted to with a couple of, cottages for mom and the sisters. I couldn't run it, and this SR zoning gave me everything I needed. I can run a little business there. I can rebuild cars. I can do, a lot of things on that property zoned SR that I couldn't do zoned commercial. But the biggest thing is not being able to get a VA loan. I had to go commercial at the last minute, and, I feel like I've earned that VA loan, and I've never been able to use it. I'm looking forward to rezoning and refinancing.
I don't believe you can run a business on SR.
A small,
Home.
well, Richard, what did you tell me on that?
Yeah, just for clarification, anybody on residential property, we can issue a business license for a home occupation, which is typically one room inside their residence and, typically used for maybe an internet-based business or something like that. And if somebody has, let's say, also a storage building, that they use for their residential purposes, or they have some residential or potentially, commercial equipment fully inside a storage building. That's possible because basically we do issue building permits for storage buildings, and we don't ask people, well, give us an inventory line item list of exactly what's going to be inside your doors, in your storage building. But I will say, for example, if somebody wanted to, on residential land, obtain a business license for something where there would be 3, 4, 5 commercial type vehicles or equipment or things like that outside, just sitting on the property, then that would typically not be allowed. It is a fine line because in the county in general, as we know, the county has more of a preference for property rights, and so when it comes to residential property and use of residential property for other things, we really want to work with folks within the code of ordinances, while making sure that residential is residential and non-residential is otherwise.
The business I'm talking about is rebuilding El Caminos. I have a restoration business that I ran out of my subdivision back in Kent. And I've got built 3 of them. And this was not my first choice for property. The first thing I tried to buy was Jasper muffler over off Hood Road within the city limits. And that deal didn't quite work out for me, but it's not over yet. So I might rebuild these cars at home and then put them over there or somewhere like that for sale. But I'm not looking at putting any commercial vehicles around the house there.
Any other comments or questions?
Well, we've come up several times with the problem of people having things, highway business or commercial, and they couldn't get loans for property. So this is one that we've dealt with before. So I'm interested in what's coming from on that. Get them a loan for property and use the loans to the finance.
Any other questions or comments?
If not, I'll make a motion that the approved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion be approved, please raise your hand. Any opposition? Motion carries. That closes that public hearing. Have a second item under new business, the text amendment discussion for pet cemeteries. I'd like to ask Richard.
Well, Mr. Cagle, thank you for your time. This is the month for Halloween, and so all we need is a full moon to complete the trio here.
Yeah.
Halloween, pet cemeteries. No, this is not a bad movie from the 70s or 80s. There is an actual person on Philadelphia Road between 53 and 515 who has just a couple of acres, 2.1 acres. And he believes that use of a portion of his property, only about a half an acre, might be appropriate for a pet cemetery. And he would seek to operate it as a business. He would not seek to cut up the property. He would keep it intact at 2.1 acres. Right now, pet and human cemeteries are limited in the county to a minimum lot size of 3 acres, and so it's not allowed currently. This gentleman, Stanley Morris, requested that as county staff, I research other adjacent counties and see what they have, and I discussed the matter with Planning Commission and get your general thoughts. This matter has not been legally advertised, and no action will be taken tonight. In general, Gordon County allows animal and human cemeteries with no acreage restriction. That's the same for Dawson County and Walker County. In Murray County, conditional use approval is required before any standalone animal and human cemetery. And then in Gilmer County, if you want to have an animal or human cemetery that's a standalone, meaning not related to a church on the same property as a church, then there's a minimum of 5 acres, and there is a required 50-foot setback from the property line. And again, in addition, in Gilmer County, it's only allowed in commercial or agriculture with a conditional use. So Gilmer County has the most restrictions on animal and human cemeteries. Based on this preliminary research, which does not include state or federal requirements, I would, as a recommendation, look to consider this as a case-by-case basis, something that definitely would not be allowed just by right anywhere in the county, because neighbors, I believe, should have a right to at least know what's proposed, and at a public meeting be able to speak in favor or against. And so therefore, if it moved forward, then I would recommend that in residential and perhaps commercial, maybe having conditional use approval be attached to it. So Mr. Morris is not here tonight, and if desired, y'all can hear from him at the next meeting, but I just wanted to get y'all's general thoughts on pet cemeteries.
What constitutes a pet?
Is it a horse or is it a tarantula?
I mean,
First time.
do we know? What is a pet? How is pet defined? Or is it defined?
Is this a public pet cemetery? Is he gonna charge for burying animals?
Yeah, you can business.
Oh, okay.
There are a lot of problems with cemeteries. I was doing cemeteries at one time. The state requires, I know for perpetual care cemeteries, like 50 acres. They did, maybe more than that now. I tried to call the Secretary of State's office today, and they were closed for a holiday. But you've got health department problems. If he's charging money for this and he's saying that he's going to maintain it, he's going to have to, there's, that money's got to be accounted for, a percentage of it. The state it's at least 10%, I believe.
For professional care.
Yeah, and there are, more than I do, there are a lot of regulations on this, and it's not something that they can look at.
Do we have any
Right, so-
today?
Not that I'm aware of that have business licenses. Now,
Yeah.
obviously people bury their pets on their own land or on, potentially on other people's land, but hopefully on their own land. But we don't have a definition of a pet cemetery at this time because it's lumped into just a general cemetery use and definition. So based on research, the proposed definition, if this moved forward, would be any land or structure dedicated to and used or intended to be used for interment of animal remains. So it could be anything as big as a large dog or a horse, and as small as a little bird or something.
The elephant.
If he
You got
intends to
one?
sell merchandise, markers and stuff like that, but I mean,
Yeah, there's all kinds of different. And I guess concern I have is kind of where Pat was going.
yeah.
Stanley, he's, I guess 60-ish, somewhere around there.
Who's Danny?
Stanley Morris. the one
Oh,
that's-
okay. I thought it was your pet.
No. Old horse. What happens 10, 20, 30 years from now? Or if he who's gonna take care of that cemetery? You know, if somebody pays however much money for a pet plot, you know, in this perpetual care, who's gonna take care of that cemetery in 5, 10, 20 years?
What you've asked for tonight, though, is not to approve a specific, are you asking to approve this, or we're just asking to define?
No.
This is just discussion.
Just
Nothing has
discussion.
been legally advertised.
Okay.
This is just discussion.
I think there's a lot of ifs and questions
Yeah,
there.
this is-
I'd think you'd need to get a thing from the state about their rules and regulations on it, because they are a lot of restrictions on
Mhm.
the cemetery.
The only state rule I can think of is you can't have a pet cemetery with a human cemetery.
Yeah.
But I don't know, there may be more now, I don't know. If there's any more of those on pet cemeteries.
Yeah, I don't know what the state would allow on that. I know that.
But as far as zoning, you definitely want it all to be conditional because,
Absolutely.
you know, you've got, depending on how they're burying these and how big they are, and there's water table problems and health problems and.
Yeah, and who's gonna administer all of this?
Mhm.
Whose backyard would it fall into in the county to administer? I think it's a can of worms, no pun intended.
A bed of worms. Not eating it, but-
And you're gonna have separate lots for those worms. You bury them all in one can.
That's an interesting one. It's good that you brought it on in
Yeah.
October.
You'd hate to do it during the holiday season, you know.
So it sounds like from what I'm hearing, one, that I need to get some more research on pet cemeteries. But two, I need to really speak to Mr. Morris in more detail to get what his exact proposal would be, if he has a detailed idea of how he would run it, you know, and all the descriptions of how the land would lay, how far back from the road it would be, where it would be in relation to other structures he has on his property, because it is just 2 acres. And then maybe, you know, see how serious, well, yeah, with runoff, other issues, see how serious about this he really is. And it sounds like there's a lot of questions, and in general, slight trend towards negative perception of this.
No, done properly.
if I'm off base, you know, let me know.
I don't think it's negative necessarily, but I think it's,
It would be a good
it
business.
would be. And
Okay.
I'm not negative towards it, it's just, there's a lot of ifs and questions.
Okay, so just get more information
How it's gonna be
from
regulated.
research and from the potential applicant. Okay.
Because other than just zoning, someone's going to need to regulate this.
I think they got to be put in some kind of a vault or some kind of something that.
Yeah, and there's another problem. Is he going to sell merchandise? Is he going to sell it free?
I used to work with a guy that put vaults in the ground.
I know where there's one at. The last count I had, it had 23 dogs in it, but they wasn't pets. Come on this feller's property and he'd shoot them and bury them.
I don't think that was a cemetery. I think that was a disposal.
Okay, well, that's all I had on this side. Thank you.
Is there any other questions or comments from Richard regarding the pet cemetery? If not, item 5 is board comments. Are there any board comments? Item 6 is public comments. Any comments from the public? Item 7 is adjournment. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Hear a second? Second. Moving second. Any discussion? All those in favor of adjournment, please raise your hand. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming out.
Yeah.